Pickle, let's go to the hotline. Let's go to the Rio Grande Valley to talk to the head coach of the 1-0 Brownsville Hanna Golden Eagles. We are joined by Coach Mark Guest. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Greg?
I am doing excellent. How are things in the beautiful Rio Grande Valley?
Well, right now they're very windy and hot, but we're hoping to get a little bit of this cold air that everybody else is getting and cool things off a bit.
Well, Coach, it's. I know everybody's real tired of talking about it, but it's such a huge part of our lives these days. Is the Rio Grande Valley has been hit pretty hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. You guys were just now this week able to get out there and play your first game of the year. Before we even get to the big win over San Benito, can you just tell us about your feelings about being able to get out there and finally play a game on October 23rd?
Well, we had been locked down since the week after spring break, and things were just not looking good for us. We would get so much information. We were going to be able to start, and we weren't going to be able to start, and it was just a lot of back and forth. But ultimately, we were fortunate enough to be able to get out here, start our practices on October 5th. And, we had 3 weeks of practice. We got no scrimmages, anything like that. We just jumped right into our first ball game. So it was way different than what we thought, but we were just so excited to be back out on the field and have the opportunity to be able to play.
Well, and it was right into the teeth of the schedule too. Obviously just playing a district only schedule. You guys open with San Benito, a team that extremely well thought of, and a team that we think has very high hopes. And you guys, darn if you guys don't go out there and knock them off on the road. I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was surprised. Were you surprised?
We weren't surprised, honestly. We knew that all things being equal, that nobody's been out on the field for a long time. We felt we had as good a chance as they did to win the ball game. And going into it, the last time we went over to their stadium in 18, the year we went 3 rounds and lost to a heartbreaker to Brandeis there in the Alamo Dome in the 3rd round. That year we beat them over there 30-0. We had the shutout, and we felt good going into their house and being able to play. So we just prepared our kids the best that we could, and just expected all-out relentless effort and execution, doing their job, and that's pretty much what happened.
We're talking with Mark Guest, the head coach of the Brownsville Hanna Golden Eagles here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Coach, it was a defensive masterpiece from you guys against a high-powered and explosive San Benito team. Last year this was a defense that struggled at times and had some trouble finding their footing. Right out of the gates, it seems like this defense has taken a big step forward. What do you think is the difference this year on the defensive side?
Well, we're a year older, and even so, we still don't have very many seniors on defense. We're playing quite a few juniors, and we've even got a sophomore or 2 in the mix. And they're just stepping up and doing their job. They're very coachable. They take a lot of pride in their defense, which, of course, their head coach does also. So I have a great defensive coordinator who he and I both call the game. I call the front end, he calls the back end, and we complement each other very well. And I think our preparation for the game is really what led to the result. We had watched, all we had film on was film from last year and the previous times that we played them. So that's all we had to go on. So we just relied on our film and our preparation, and the kids came out and for the most part did a really good job of executing.
Well, and you mentioned you got a lot of youngsters over there. Anthony Ambrose is a junior. Umberto Garcia, who I know came up with a huge sack late in the game for y'all, is a junior. For a lot of young teams, especially coming off of the kind of offseason that you guys have had, you might expect them not to be very crisp. But I guess how were you able to prepare your guys so that coming out of the gates after the strangest offseason in Texas high school football history, how was it that you guys were able to stay focused and prepared so that you guys were able to come out so hot?
We really stressed during our downtime importance of being physically ready to play. We were going to get them mentally ready. We weren't worried about that, but it was, were we going to be physically ready? And of course, when you don't have the well, let me rephrase this. We take a lot of pride in our off-season strength program and our conditioning program.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest change I think that I had made when I stepped on board here at Hanna. And it's really made a big difference for us. And, this season, even though we didn't get to have the off-season with them directly working out, we still laid out the expectation for them. And they understand the importance of that. We were having a really good off-season coming into March. Once we got to spring break, we had really probably one of the better off seasons one of my groups has ever had. And so we expected some big things from him. And then all of a sudden the brakes get put on us with COVID, and it was different. But they understand the importance of it and understood, exactly what they had to do in order to get themselves physically ready to play. And then, of course, once we were able to get into camp October 5th, then we just started really having to focus more on the mental portion of it, and it just works out for us.
We're talking with Mark Guest, the head coach of the Brownsville Hanna Eagles here on Texas Football Today. Coach, we've talked a lot about your defense, but I want to switch over to the offensive side, and particularly your signal caller, Diego Escobar. I know that every coach is going to say that their quarterback is important. It seems like as not only from what he does on the field, but also the leadership that he brings from the position off the field as well is important. I can look at the numbers and I can tell that he's pretty good. But what is it about Diego Escobar that makes him special?
Diego, he was our starting free safety last year as a junior and first team all district guy. Very, very competitive kid. And Diego does not like losing. He hates losing. So he uses that, I think, to drive him forward, to be a great leader and to do a good job as far as holding himself accountable for mistakes that he makes. And he understands fully that we're all accountable to what we do. And his goal is to not make those mistakes. But yet when he does, he knows he's not perfect. He tries to learn from those mistakes, and of course, like I said, he holds himself accountable. And he's just a great competitor and a great kid. He's a top 10% kid in his class. Very cerebral guy. Did a lot of 7-on-7 here during the pandemic break. They had several different 7-on-7 leagues that down here in the valley that they were competing in, really all over the state, but. He just loves to compete, and it doesn't matter if he's playing football or if he's playing tiddlywinks. He wants to win, and that's what he does.
Well, he certainly does. He comes up big. Seems like any time you guys need him. And finally, Coach, it's on to the next one, and it's not like it gets any easier from here. As this week you guys draw Los Fresnos, another perennial power down there in the Rio Grande Valley. I don't want to ask you to give away your game plan, but I know you're already working on the Falcons. Whenever you see what you're up against this week, what do you see?
Well, we see the same style of offense that Tascosa ran that we've got to see the last 2 years during the regular season. And, it's an offense that I'm familiar with because from my days back at West Oso, we ran the I-back veer. And then, of course, when I got to veterans here in Brownsville the first 2 years, we installed the one-back veer, the same thing that those guys are doing. And so I'm pretty familiar with it, and I know that it's a offense that you have to stay defensively. You have to stay on assignment. So we have to have somebody covering the dive. We have to have people on the quarterback, and then we have to have somebody else on the pitch. So as long as whatever we're in, we have those assignments taken care of, we have a much better chance of slowing that thing down.
He's Mark Guest. He's the head coach of the Brownsville Hanna Golden Eagles, sitting at 1-0 after their big win over San Benito. Coach, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on a big win on Friday night, and best of luck down the road.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you all for having me.